Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel here once again, and this is going to be not just another movie review, but the first movie review of the year. Yes, we are kind of late into the quote-unquote new year when it comes to movie reviews, but we are starting off big with our first, not just movie, but movie series that we're going to be reviewing for the year 2024, and we're starting off in a big way. So previously we've looked at some of the endeavors of the Dark Knight, that being of course Batman. We looked at the Dark Knight trilogy last year, and we looked at the Batman last year as well. So if you haven't already, go check out those reviews. But he wasn't the only DC hero who got major movie attention, because someone also decided to make a movie for the Man of Steel. Oh, so how they do? Let's find out. I'm talking about Superman, and aka Superman the movie. So, as always, I'm not a professional movie reviewer and analyst, just a man who enjoys a good time. And I, for the most part, had a pretty good time with this movie, and you'll find out why. But of course, as always, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, first of all, welcome. But also, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and what I disliked about the movie, as well as give a plot summary. All right, so we start off the movie on the planet Krypton, where General Zod and his followers are sent to the Phantom Zone, owned by the High Council, including Jor-el. Also, Zod and Nun and Ursa are transported in that infamous rhombus slash quadrilogram, I believe it's called. Oh, pretty much they're sent in there, floating through who in the glass, and admittedly, it like I imagine looking at it back then, it was cool, but now it does look kind of cheesy. But nevertheless, yes. So, they are in prison, sent to the Phantom Zone, where they will float forever, or however, Krypton is dying. It's about to be destroyed by the incoming red super sun. So Jor-el tries to warn the council. Council's not having it. It tells Jor-el that if he continues, who's trying to spread fear and everything, that there will be some trouble. So instead, Jor-el sends Jor-el and his wife Laura, or Lara, it may be here in the wiki. They send their son Kal-El to an alternate planet, that being Earth, where they acknowledge that he will be an outsider. He'll be more powerful than them, but his superior abilities will be able to help out. So he's sent there, and the planet is destroyed, which it honestly is kind of a sad scene. Like the juxtaposition and for the scene is pretty interesting. Like there's them sending Kal-El shot through space. Meanwhile, you see the destruction on the planet as the sun comes in, and everything's like breaking up and stuff. All the chaos and stuff surrounding the planet being destroyed, and seeing like all the people will like swallow in like the gaping holes and stuff that are coming out. Pretty much the planet breaking apart, or as a result of the red supergiant sun that comes to devour the planet, essentially. But yes, so Kal-El is on his way to Earth. So eventually, Kal-El's space pod crashes in a field in Smallville, Kansas. And he's found by Jonathan and Martha Kent. They're driving. They see the crash, or at least they hear it, and then make their way over to there. They find him in there. They find the young son, and they take him in. They find the baby, and they take him in, and name him Clark and everything, and eventually we see him grow up. We see him become a teenager. Her and John and Martha instill some good old fashioned family values in young Clark. But eventually, John dies from a heart attack. At least it wasn't a tornado like Man of Steel did. But John passes away from a heart attack, and afterwards, and of course, Clark is feeling remorseful, saying all his powers. So he knows about his powers, knows about his abilities, but he says all his powers, and he couldn't save his poor father, or which you can definitely see and I don't want to get too much into it because I want to mainly save it for like the pros and cons and stuff, but you can definitely see the emotion and everything that he's feeling, and really his inner turmoil that he has all these abilities, he has all these powers, but he couldn't save his father. But nevertheless, he discovers the spaceship that was placed in their barn. He discovers the green crystal, and he sets off to find his destiny. He says goodbye to his mom and everything, and his Earth mother, that being of course Martha, and she tells him that she knew this day would come, but sends her son on his way over to really find himself. So eventually he goes to the Arctic and launches the green crystal, and that allows it to construct the Fortress of Solitude. And once Clark gets to the fortress, that's when the hologram of Jor-el comes up. Jor-el pretty much instructs his son on what's going on, why he's there, what his purpose is, and pretty much coaches and guides his son from there. And it's very abridged, but it takes several years, and he's pretty much taught all the ways of Earth and the body and his abilities and things like that. So we see Clark growing up with Jor-el's messages, and now we see him starting to come into what he must do. So eventually, Clark, now all grown up, gets a job at the Daily Bugle. He encounters Lois Lane, and as well as Jimmy Olsen, and of course Perry White. Perry White, I should say, pretty much everybody at the Daily Bugle. And then. And he's making his name there. But we also see Lex Luthor, her emerging, and as somebody who caused a lot of trouble. He straight up kills a guy by pushing him in front of a train, which is through one of the secret panels. It's a undercover agent, or a detective, I should say. Not necessarily undercover agent, but a detective, if I should say. He's trying to investigate Lex Luthor, so they are onto him, but he's pushed by one of the panels as he goes through the train tracks following Lex's minion. So he's pushed in front of the train and dies, which yikes. It's like they didn't actually show it because that'd be very gruesome, but yikes, that would be. But yeah, what a way to go. But yeah, so we see Lex, we see him starting to emerge as very villainous. We see it juxtaposed with Clark Kent getting his job at the Daily Bugle, but eventually he will make himself known, and they do kind of show. I mean, we the audience obviously knows it, but they do hint at it as he and Lois are about to be robbed. The guy shoots, and Superman catches the bullet hit, but acts like he got hit, like he got knocked out. So we see the Supermanisms starting to come out, but they won't make themselves known until a little bit later, which let's get into. So, now Lois is about to go on a helicopter ride as part of a story that she's doing, part of an investigation. But that something goes awry with the helicopter and it crashes and Lois is about to fall. Clark notices and then Superman shows up. He emerges and a nice little callback here and there and some pretty cool ability. He's such as Superman about to change to the phone booth, because that's very classic Superman, of course, is he goes to the phone booth and changes, which it's Clark, if somebody notices you going into that phone booth and Superman comes out, your cover's blown, but different time, but instead Superman goes through the revolving door and changes clothes. Clark Kent is no more, now it's Superman. Where's his clothes go? It's not the last time something like this will happen, but like where's his clothes go? Well, I know that's not important, but like at least he's like the clothes would be like discarded, or like in the previous phone booth example, well, the clothes would be lying in the phone booth, which also would like give it away if someone saw Clark in that outfit that day, like, hey, aren't these Clark's clothes? What? And then Superman came out. Wait a minute, but again, different time. But yeah, so Superman and saves her, and it is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Again, can't get too much into it because we're gonna save it for the pros and cons. At least for the most part, but Superman and saves Lois because she does end up losing her grip. So Superman saves her, catches the helicopter as well. And then goes around saving various people, preventing robberies. He's even saving a cat from a tree, which is pretty nice. But yeah, so he's then in the paper, and now his name is officially coined Superman. And meanwhile, Lex does learn about Superman and seeks to learn more about him, and pretty much learns about Superman's weakness, that being kryptonite, of course. Now this is interesting. So according to the wiki here, Otis is the name of Lex Luthor's bumbling assistant, and there's a woman with him named Eve Tessmacher. Now, apparently, according to the wiki here, the wiki is to be believed, they are apparently dating, which I didn't, unless I just totally missed it, and I just wasn't paying attention, because sadly those things do kind of tend to fly by me sometimes, but and no pun intended, of course, to Superman, but unless it like totally flew by me, I don't think there was any real indication that they were like dating at all. Like she just kind of hung around, and she did chastise him for like killing and stuff, and for his evil nefarious schemes. But I just figured she was a second assistant. So unless I totally missed it, that is interesting, especially something that will come up later on. But nevertheless, Lex learns of Superman's secret identity, but then also learns about some missiles, so he seeks to get his hands on those. All right, so meanwhile, Perry White is trying to gain more information on this up-and-coming hero, this hero that emerges, and then he tasks someone to find out more about him like delving into his personal life. Man, even J. Jonah didn't go that far. He just immediately labeled Spider-Man a menace. Like, at least Perry gave Superman a chance first, before immediately writing him off as a menace. And yes, of course, the parallels are there. Unfortunately, not quite as familiar with the folk of the Daily Bugle, as opposed to not Daily Bugle, Daily Planet, I should say, as opposed to the folk of the Daily Bugle, and that's definitely there. But yeah, so anybody who can get information will receive a very hefty cash prize, and Lois, she is on it. It's so Superman wants to meet with her. He gives her like a little note, and then she meets up with Superman, and he takes her flying and stuff, and they fly all around, takes her up into the clouds. Lois even falls at one point, but Superman catches her, of course, and then Lois gets some of the info, and the reason they even go flying in the first place is because Lois is asking him a bunch of the interview questions and everything, and she's like, "How fast can you fly?" He's like, "Oh, okay, let's test that out." Superman, smooth Superman. But yeah, so Superman and and takes her flying, and then afterwards she's such a wonder. And Superman's like, "Oh shoot, we forgot to measure." Which, man, you didn't care about the measuring, but it is pretty cool, like to see the kind of romance and the feelings blossoming between Superman and Miss Lois Lane. And then right afterwards, right after she's dropped back at her apartment with Superman, she immediately goes on a date with Clark Kent, which obviously, which is kind of funny. Like, here, this guy is sweeping you off your feet. He Lois Lane. Now I'm going on a date with another guy. But I mean, it's kind of a tricky. That's not a can of worms I'm opening, but it is just kind of funny. But yeah, so Clark, or you can see, wants to tell her that he's Superman, but obviously, the whole secret identity and everything. Which comment below. Do you prefer like the stories of the heroes, or should I say, do you prefer the heroes who their identity is known, such as like Iron Man, or do you prefer it when the secret identity has to be kept secret, like Superman or Spider-Man or pretty much everybody else? Also, do you want it to be a bit more known? Like, I can kind of see both sides of the paradigm, but maybe I'll say that for another time. But yeah, so Superman getting a little friendly with Lois. Yeah, so Lex Luthor is plotting, and now we see Superman starting to become more of the limelight, but these two will eventually meet. All right, so Lex Luthor gets his hands on the missiles. He almost messes it up. Otis does by being dumb. So Otis is very dim-witted, of course. So he almost messes it up. But Lex Luthor, of course, being the genius that he is manages to fix things and manages to get his hands on the missiles, and then he lures Superman in, and he speaks at only a frequency that dogs can hear, which you see by the dogs reacting to the frequency, meaning the message is for Superman and Superman alone, because of course Superman has his super hearing, which does kind of come up like briefly, but it's not super touched upon. But nevertheless, it's not like it's bad or anything. It's just not really as touched upon which I feel like that power in general, like the super hearing, isn't quite as touched upon, at least in terms of like the movies and stuff. Like, they focus on the other abilities, but that's more just an add-on. But nevertheless, I digress. So Superman meets with Lex, and Lex tells him his whole plan, and before strapping a kryptonite chain to Superman, and like, he unveils the crate, and he tricks Superman because Superman can't see through lead. Which, why would you put that in the article? Like pretty much, if anybody wanted to go after Superman, and if anybody had nefarious means, they just know they gotta wear lead, and they're good essentially against Superman. But nevertheless, that is something that Superman divulges to Lois, though, so that's kind of also on him. But nevertheless, as Superman, and the only reason he's tricked is because he's trying to find the detonators. Lex says, I have two missiles launching, and one's going to the San Andreas Fault, and the other is going to Hackensack, New Jersey. And you, with your super speed, can't stop them both. Certain comic runs would probably beg to differ, but nevertheless, Superman is tricked, and the necklace of kryptonite is attached to Superman. So Superman is powerless, and he's dumped in the water, essentially left for dead while this plan carries out. But Eve has a change of heart and decides to help him, but only after Superman agrees to save her mother, because her mother lives in Hackensack. So Eve takes the necklace off of Superman, and Superman says, and Superman doesn't even say save me. He said save the people, because Superman is able to save the people. Also, she makes him promise to stop the missile in Hackensack first before going on to the other one, and Superman agrees. So she takes the necklace off, and he goes after the missiles. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. All right, so Superman is able to stop one of the missiles, but he's not able to stop the other, as it is targeted for the San Andreas Fault, and of course it ends up striking and causing all kinds of earthquakes, affecting places like the Golden Gate Bridge and the Hoover Dam, and which the Hoover Dam is about to flood and everything, and the Golden Gate Bridge is about to be taken out as well, and we see people crossing. So Superman and goes to save the people. He couldn't stop the missile, but he does as go and mend the fault line, which is definitely crazy to think about, but that's superhuman durability of Superman, of course. Whereas managed to save a bunch of people, including Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane, who are both out there. So Lois is actually investigating another story. He gets caught up, and her car does fall in one of the rifts caused by the earthquake. And unfortunately, she does suffocate. He is able to save Jimmy, but he's not able to save her, and Superman is very upset. So much so that he does the one of the things that his dad told him not to do, and that's going back in time and altering history. Movie logic 101. If there's a rule that's very important that's not supposed to be broken, that rule is definitely going to be broken. And Superman does exactly that. He goes to outer space and spins the planet around, literally reversing time. So that he can save her, or which he does, and he brings Lex and Otis to justice. So they're taken out, and it actually turns out I did miss a part in the wiki. So the missile was misdirected, hit accidentally by Otis. Which alludes to Otis almost messing it up with one of the missiles, but they were able to get the other one on track. But Superman does stop them. He brings them to jail, and Lex rips his wig off, which admittedly at first I was like, wait, Lex has hair in this movie? Oh, that's interesting. And so he gets he's not bald, but nope, he was wearing a wig. So it wasn't like Lex Luthor in Batman vs Superman, where his hair was shaved off afterwards. Nope, he had a wig on. But nevertheless, as the Earth is saved, Superman saves the people. Lois, he and Lois are about to share a kiss, have a tender moment, and then Jimmy kind of cock blocks a little bit, but nevertheless, Superman and saves the day essentially, and that's what ends off the movie. And that was Superman. So, quite a bit going on. So getting into the pros and cons, of course, what I liked and what I disliked about the movie. Starting with what I liked, I think it was pretty well done. Like Superman is very likable, and I was reading up on a little bit of the background surrounding the movie, and Christopher Reeve, who of course does play both Clark Kent and Superman, and has two very distinct personalities. So Clark Kent is very nerdy, very shy and everything, but then Superman, of course, is Superman, and Christopher Reeve was essentially told to play Superman essentially as two very different roles. Essentially, it was described to him as two roles in one, which it definitely is, especially with the whole secret identity aspect, like being able to nail both. And I think Christopher Reeve definitely does nail both. Of course, we have Marlon Brando as jor-el, which of course Marlon Brando, very legendary actor, and Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, which I think they do a decent job with Lex, him outsmarting Superman and everything, but there is an aspect that I'm not the biggest fan of, but we'll get to that. And of course, Lois, we see the establishment between Lois and Superman / Clark, and see they're very different. they're very different relationships. Lois's relationship versus with Clark versus her relationship with Superman, and where Clark's very nerdy, kind of the new guy, very shy, kind of almost like a fish out of water kind of thing, because he comes from Smallville. So Lois is she's friendly with him, but also there's a little bit disconnect there. But nevertheless, with Superman, he pretty much sweeps her off her feet. That's pretty cool. The action's pretty decent throughout, seeing like all of Superman's abilities. Like if you're someone who's not really familiar with the comics, but you've seen this movie, I think it gets across who Superman is very well. How he's the symbol of peace and justice, that he never lies, and that he's just like a uber her good guy. Which he is until we get to Injustice, but that's neither here nor there. So, really characterizing Superman. And we see the trials and struggles he goes through. We see him wanting to help everybody as well as he can. Yeah, I think it all works really well. And of course, that soundtrack, that awesome soundtrack. Now, this isn't going to dictate, or this isn't going to affect like my overall like score for the movie or like how I feel about it. But literally, that song has been stuck in my head ever since like my preparation to getting to watch this movie. Yeah, the song's always stuck in my head. I like hum it all the time. But it is a very iconic song. And man, superhero movies at the time definitely had some iconic songs between like this and then the Batman soundtrack it's really good stuff, or just soundtracks in general, because as Star Wars, there's that soundtrack like is also fantastic. Of course, and of course the soundtrack is done by the legendary John Williams, who of course was in charge of soundtracks such as Indiana Jones as well as Star Wars, if I am not mistaken. And so, yep, he was also in charge of Star Wars. So, definitely, you can definitely see that influence on the movie. But I think it just makes it even better. Like the soundtrack is very nice, seeing it calm at times, but also very bold, and seeing how it plays out compared to the scenes, and seeing how everything's characterized, even the Kent family, and to an extent, and Krypton, even though it is brief. And spoiler alert, General Zod will be back. He definitely will. But even seeing them, even in their relatively brief time, seeing how they're integral to Superman as a character, and I think, because what I like to do after watching a movie is see what other people say about the movie. So looking up scenes on YouTube, mainly to see the discussion. And I forget exactly who commented, but they summed it up perfectly. How he was given his abilities. He's by being Kryptonian, being from Krypton, but given his humanity and his upbringing, and taught the way of truth and justice by the Kent family. I think this movie definitely gets that across very well, and I think it's very well done. It's pretty well acted. You can definitely feel the emotion, and it's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's a pretty good time in that regard as well. So I think that's very well done, and definitely one of the major things this movie has going for it. In terms of what I didn't quite like as much, and admittedly, this first thing, there's actually kind of like two. This first thing, I can't really be too harsh on the movie. Not just because of the time, and I think you might know where I'm going with this. It's not just because of the time period, but also with how the movie's direction, I should say. But some of the effects do look kind of weird. Like they do look a bit dated, but of course, this was 1978, so I can't be too harsh on it. Like that'd be very unfair on my part. It is worth bringing it up. Some of the effects do look kind of cheesy, yeah. But that was kind of just the time, That was kind of just with the time, and honestly, I've seen newer movies do a whole lot worse when it comes to the effects. But the other thing is that the movie, they wanted to go with more practical effects, not really as much of like the CG and stuff, which at this time was still relatively in its infancy, but 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 yeah, I wanted to go for more like practical effects, really showing the magic behind someone flying and showing it in that regard. And I think in that regard, it definitely does work. So, that's honestly more of a nitpick on my part, but something I thought worth bringing up. But the other thing is kind of Lex Luthor, like as a villain. I think it works, but I do wish they would have went a little bit further with it. Like obviously Lex Luthor, very like Superman's top enemy. For some people, this is like Superman's version of the Joker, especially with a lot of the schemes and stuff that Lex goes into. Who and him wanting to prove his smarts and be superior mentally to Superman. I think showing that and showing him even outsmarting Superman at points, I think is pretty cool. But I do wish they would have did a little bit more. I wish he would have gotten a little more interaction with Superman. Like by the time he and Superman even meet face to face, the movie is like almost over. So I do wish we got a little more when it comes to that. I wish they had some more interaction. I wish there was more of a established bond or relationship or battle between them. In comparison to like the 1989 Batman movie, which kind of around a similar time. Of course, the 1989 Batman movie was 11 years later, but kind of around a similar time. Joker, seeing him persistent throughout the movie, seeing a lot of the schemes stuff he got into, him and Batman having multiple meetings with each other. Seeing him be a constant presence, or even the Dark Knight trilogy, where the villains are present throughout the movie, and we see Batman really going after them the whole movie. I wish they did a little bit more of that when it came to Superman and Lex Luthor, because they are, of course, rivals in the comics. They are very much rivals, and Lex Luthor, they didn't quite go some of the other routes with Lex Luthor, where he's very much like an evil Bruce Wayne, and at least that's kind of the comparison that he's given by a number of people, and myself included at times. But I do wish they did a little bit more with it, like a little more of they did some. They showed some of the Battle of the Wits between them with Lex Luthor, getting the jump on Superman, and Superman having to be saved by Eve. But I do wish they went just a little bit further with it. But maybe that's just me. But yeah, that is going to do it for the Superman movie. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And now that we're full swing into Superman, we of course will be looking at its sequel, Superman 2, at some point, I'm sure, within the next couple weeks or so. So we're continuing on with the series. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the Superman movie and my review of it. Do you like this movie? Do you like my review of this movie? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. Check out my social media, as I, of course, have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so go check those out. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.